Hey, hey, hey. Let me check something here. How are you? Ow. That's good iced tea. Okay. Got a lot in your mind. Okay. Hopefully everything's all right. Ow. Uh, mean. Gonna wait a little while till other people come in because tonight's stitch is really cool. Like, really cool. And it's relatively easy. Crocheting a mandala. Oh, wow. So a lot of rounds, going in a circle and doing different stitches on each row and gotta move my keyboard out of the way. Order some crafting rings to make a few. Oh, cool. Yeah, I've never done like a wall hanging mandala type thing before. Ah, nose is itchy. Allergies have been like crazy the past couple days. Going to make them in seasonal colors so you can switch them out. Nice. I think it They would. I really like the ones I've seen that are done in like autumn colors, like the golds and the reds and the purples and the browns. Yeah, it's been the seasonal allergies with the pollen and itchy eyes, then watery eyes and sinus pressure, runny nose, and sneezing like crazy. Okay. Yep. Hey, Grammy. I'm gonna wait a couple more minutes before we start because if anybody's gonna crochet along, hey there, Crojo. This might be the stitch to crochet along with. And I promise you, it's easy to wrap your head around. I promise. It looks more complicated than it is. Those of you who were in the Discord last night, I hope everybody enjoyed the um, the video we watched about sharing. Hey there, sarcastic Earnharder. Zyrtec and Flonase are my friends this time of year because in East Texas, the pollinating is the seasoning between winter and summer. Yeah, I haven't broken out the Sudafed yet. The Sudafed's the only allergy thing that I can take, but it hasn't been bad enough to take it yet. So Fingers crossed. Again, anybody who was in the Discord viewing party last night, thank you for joining. We watched a video showing how they shear sheep and alpaca. I know there were some technical issues with some people, which is fine. It's not a problem. There was no major issues and all. If anybody needs any help figuring out how to get the videos to play and how to navigate a voice video channel on Discord, let me know. I can always do after the stream tonight. We can work on that. I'd be happy to walk people through. Sarcastic owner, take Claritin year round, and this time of year's still not my friend. Grammy's gonna crochet along? Wow. Okay, so I think we're gonna get into this right now. Let's see. First, okay, before we get into it, I have something to say. I remember when Rock was young. Me and Susie had so much fun. Holding hands and skimming stones, had an old gold Chevy and a place of my own. But the biggest kick I ever got was doing a thing called the crocodile stitch. Sorry, bad joke. Okay, this is the crocodile stitch. Normally when I do my samples, I don't... There you go. Normally when I do my samples, I don't make the sample this big. I made it this large because I loved doing the stitch and I love the way it looks. And this stitch is not reversible. This is the right side. This is the pretty side. Couldn't join in last night because a group of my friends and I were writing to our state senator to try to politely tell him that he's a donkey for supporting anti-LGBT legislation. Thank you, sarcastic yarn hoarder. Thank you. Not to get political, but thank you. So this is the right side of the stitch. That is the wrong side. So it does have a there is a right and wrong side. With this stitch, we are not going to flip our work like normal crochet. You do a row and flip and then do a row. This is worked similarly to Tunisian crochet in the idea that you work a row and then you work back. So you're not going to keep all the loops on your hook like you do with Tunisian. You're going to do a stitch, finish it, you're done with it. But it's going to work this way, back and forth this way, but no flipping. There will be rotating, but no flipping. So why does it look so dark? Maybe if I get this other light going. Hey there, Citric for Blue. So for crocheting along, get your yarn out. And, oh, this looks good and solid. I think it would look really good in a variegated yarn, especially like one with a short repeat. And then the colors will kind of just blend around. So, for crocheting along, our repeat for this pattern is 6. This blue color, yeah. It's like a summery ocean blue. The repeat for this is 6 plus 3 for your foundation chain. So whenever your multiple is 6s, it could be whatever you want. I'm going to do 30. So I've done my 30. You do your multiple of 6. After that, you do 3 additional chains. And I will stop and let people catch up because I know not everybody crochets as fast as I do. Again, you can do whatever multiple you want for your sample here, as long as it's a multiple of 6, and then do 3 additional chains for your foundation chain. Pull this up over here for when we're ready for that. Nice. Yeah, there's no weird spike stitches and elongated. There's nothing like that. There's no puffs. There's none of that. All this pattern is just double crochets and chain stitches. Maybe a slip stitch every so often. So it's all basic stitches. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more so you can kind of see what I'm doing. So if everybody's got your chains, multiple of 6 plus 3 turning, not 3 turning, 3 additional chains. And again, let me know if I'm going too fast. In the 3rd chain from the hook, 1, 2, 3, in the 3rd chain, you're going to do a double crochet. So in the 3rd chain, you do a double crochet. Those chains here, those 3 chains, is a double crochet, and you did another double crochet into the 3rd chain from the hook. After we do that, after you do your double crochet into the 3rd chain from your hook, you're going to chain 2. And then in your foundation, you're going to skip 2 chains. And in the 3rd chain, you'll do 2 doubles. So to recap, we did our multiples of 6 plus 3 chains. In the 3rd chain from the hook, we did a double crochet. We chained 2. we skipped 2, and in the third chain, we did 2 doubles. That is going to be your repeat. So your repeat will be chain 2, skip 2, and in the third, do 2 double crochets. If you counted right, when you get to the very end, your very last chain will have 2 double crochets. So again, I'm going to chain 2, skip 2 on my foundation. In the third one, do 2 doubles in that same chain. So now we're going to chain 2, skip 2, in the third chain, do 2 doubles. Repeat to the end. Again, chain 2, skip 2, in the third, do 2 doubles. Chain 2, skip 2, in our third chain, do 2 doubles. Okay, my count was off a little bit. For our sample, it's not going to matter. So if you're doing it along with me, if your count was off by 1, don't worry about it too much, because it's not really going to have that much effect on it. But if you're going to make an actual project, I would worry about it. So what you're going to end up having is when you get to the end of the row, you're going to have something that looks like this, kind of like a ladder. This is a 2-row repeat. So you go across that row, and now our second row, we're not flipping, we're going to work backwards. A little trick to it. So when we get to the very end here, you're going to chain 3. And then what we're going to do is we're going to turn our work so it's like this. So it's facing towards us. And we're going to focus on this cluster of these 2 double crochets. We're going to focus on that right there, right at the end. So that chain 3 counts as a double crochet. Now what we're going to do is we're going to work around the post of this very first double crochet here at the end. We're going to work around that. So we're not working into the tops of the stitches like you normally would. We're going to go around the post of that stitch. So that counts as 1 double crochet. We're going to we're doing double crochet, so you're going to wrap your yarn like a double crochet. And then you're going to go into the space next to the post, next to the stitch. Go under the stitch, under the post, bring up a loop, and then finish your double crochet. So that's 1 right there. You're going to do 3 more, because you're going to end up having a total of 5. The chain 3 counts as 1. We just did 1 there. We're going to do 3 more just like that. Okay. So on the end, and this is the edge, because remember when we crochet, we usually go like that. We're on the edge. It looks like we're doing a border. We're not doing a border. That's the edge of the first row. And now we've chained 3, turn our work this way, and around that post of that first stitch, you're going to do 4 double crochet. That is half of the scale of the crocodile scale. That's 1/2 of it. Now after you do that, chain 1, and now we're going to turn our work so it's the other way. So what we just made, that group of those 5 double crochets are going to be closer to you. And the best way to do it is if you take your work here and you fold it in half. But remember when we were doing the first row, we had 2 double crochets together? We're going to focus on that next double crochet, not the next grouping, but the very next double crochet. Fold it in half so you can easily access that stitch because you're going to work under the post again. So if you fold it in half like that, and now you're going to do 5 double crochets around this post. Five. So all we've done is after we've done our first row, we've done our chain 3 here in the to begin with. We've done 4 double crochets around our first stitch, chain 1, and then 5 double crochets around the next double crochet post that's right next to it. That is our first scale. It looks kind of weird. You got this long piece here, and you got this little. It's not flat with it. You're with me? Okay. If anybody else is behind, let me know. If anybody's confused. Okay. So we got our first scale done. We're going to chain 1. You always chain 1 after you do 1/2 of the scale. So we did 1/2 of the scale, chain 1, 1/2 of the scale, chain 1. So now we're going to turn back the other way, turn it back the way it was. We're going to skip this group of double crochets. That's the next grouping. We're going to skip those. And we're going to focus on the next grouping. And in the next grouping, the exact same thing, we're going to do 5 double crochets around the first stitch here, around the post. So, and again, it helps if you fold it in half. Again, we're skipping these 2 double crochets. We go to the next grouping. I fold it in half. Let our scale here hang below in the back. We've wrapped like a double crochet. Go in, pull it up snug, and do our double crochets around that first stitch. We do 5 of them. We did 5, chain 1, and after you do that, you turn it the other way, and you do 5 around the next one. Hey there, Hedda, how are you? So again, we did 5 around the first in the group, chain 1, and then the next in that same grouping, that same pairing, we'll do 5 more doubles. Five. And again, after you do 5 doubles, you chain 1. After you, pretty good. checked a book on crochet that my friend had. Nice. Does your friend crochet? If your friend crochets, maybe they can help you and give you some pointers. So after you do that, you do your 5, chain 1 and 5, and then chain 1. We have our first two scales. Your first row, when you do this, they're not gonna look really good. It'll look better when we do more rows of the scales. She's great, but she's just too busy. Nope, I understand that. So after you do this, after you've made your second scale, you chain 1, and we're going to turn it the other way again. Skip the next grouping, and in the second grouping, the same thing. Fold it in half so we can access the first double crochet of the next grouping. So again, we're skipping this. We're going to the next group. Fold it in half to access the first stitch. And around that post, you're going to do 5 doubles. You're going to continue this till you get to the end. Again, you do 5 doubles, you chain 1, and now we can turn or rotate it. Again, we're not flipping, we're rotating it. Keep it folded in half so you can access the next stitch. And around that post, you do 5 more doubles. Five, and then chain 1. After you get that, you just repeat it the same thing. So we've done, and again, if you're still behind, take your time at it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me if you're crocheting along. So I've done our third scale. I'm going to turn it back, skip the next group of double crochets, and we go to the second group. I'm going to fold it in half, and around that post, we're going to do 5 doubles. Five doubles, chain 1, and then we're going to turn to do the other half of the scale. We've done one half of the scale. Now we're going to do the other half. And again, it's 5 doubles around that post. Five doubles, chain 1. Okay, rotate it back again, skip the next group, go to the following group, fold it so you can access that first stitch, that first post, and the same thing. 5 doubles around that post. Five, then chain 1, turn, so we can do the same thing on the second post of that grouping. Five, chain 1, and then turn back, and I've got one more grouping here at the very end, and it happens to be where we had our turning chain and our double crochet there. You're at the end of your first row. You only did 18. That's fine. That's fine. So when you get to the end here, you're going to do the same thing. The next row, wait until I get to this, and if anybody's crocheting along, I'll show you how to do the next row. 4, Even if you're not crocheting along, I'll still show you how to do the next row. 5, chain 1, and then turn it back, and we're at the end, and we do 5 doubles. Five. So when you get to the end of your row, your first, well, this is actually the second row, because the first row is our foundation. When we get to the end of our first row of our scales, it's going to look like that. Now at the very end here, I didn't chain 1 yet, but we will chain. Let me zoom back in. So we're going to chain 3 when we're at the end. So I just did my 5 for the scale. We're going to chain 3. That counts as a double. So we just did a row of scales. Now we're going to do a row of foundation. It's always foundation scales, foundation scales. So we've chained 3. Then we're going to do a double right in here in the middle of our scale, where this opening is. Thank you, Nor Fairy. So again, we chain 3, and now we're going to do a double into the space that's right there in the middle of our scale. Okay? Those count as your 2 doubles, your 2 double crochets. Now, this is where it gets a little interesting. It's not that difficult. We're going to chain 2. And now what we're going to do is we got these 2 scales here. We're going to look between the 2 scales, and you see we got this chain here, but then below we got this foundation. We don't want this big old hole. So we're going to treat that chain in between the scales, which is this, and the foundation together. We're going to lay it right together. And we find these 2 double crochets, and I don't know how well this is showing up. This is from our beginning row, our foundation row, when we did our 2 doubles, chain 2, 2 doubles, and so on. In between those 2 stitches, you're going to do 2 double crochets. So we're going to go in between those 2 stitches, forget about our scales, in between, bring up a strand, and do our double. And then we're going to do another double in this right next to it. So does that make sense? So we're going to push our scales to the side and find those 2 double crochets that are right there that are hidden, because the scales will hide them. Open the scales, and there's 2 double crochets. In between those 2, do 2 double crochets. After you do that, chain 2, and now the space in the center of our scale, do 2 doubles. And that is your pattern for this row, for the foundation. That's how all the foundation rows are going to be for the whole thing. What we're building right here, if you hadn't noticed, this is what the scales are going to be attached to. So we need to build our foundation, so we have something to attach the scales to on the next row. So now we're going to chain 2. Same thing. Open up the scales, find the double crochets that are there below, and in between both of them, do 2 doubles. You're not going into the stitch, you're going into the space between those double crochets. Chain 2, the space, the opening here in the scale, do 2 doubles. And then chain 2, and then open up the scales, the 2 doubles that are there below, do 2 doubles in that space between those stitches. and repeat to the very end. This yarn is splitting a little bit, so I'm trying to go a little bit slower. My stitches aren't really the best because it's splitting yarn, but I'm making do with what I got. When you get to the end, you're going to do 2 double crochets in the middle of the scale. There's no other ones on the at the end. So that is the end, is that scale. So you'll do, whoops, it snagged. You'll do 2 doubles into the middle of that scale. So yours should look something like this. In between each, again, there's 2 chains. And then you're going to do 2 double crochets in the middle of a scale. And then when you go to do your double crochets, you'll do 2 in between the stitches from the row below. So essentially what we're doing is we're crocheting a row and then we're building a row on top of it going back. So we're not really building up, well, we are building up this way, but we're going slower because we're going in height. We're going in that 3rd dimension. And I will wait until you guys get to the end of that row before we do the next scale row, because the next scale row was slightly different. Z-axis, yes. Yes, the Z-axis. It's a good way of putting it in geometry terms. X and Y, and then Z. I can never remember which one's X and which one's Y. You're at the end, okay? See how Clay Miko's doing, because I know she's crocheting along. She's good? Okay. So I'm going to bring my sample up here real quick. So what we just did is we did our the bottom row here, and then the foundations underneath. But you notice the next row of scales are staggered, like scales usually are on a crocodile or a fish or whatever. They alternate, they overlap. So that's what we're going to work on this row. So instead of chaining up 3 and doing our scale into here, because then our scale will lay on top of it perfectly, X is left and right, Y is up and down. Okay. So instead of chaining up 3 and doing our scales around this grouping, we're going to wrap our yarn like double crochet, and we're going to immediately jump to our second grouping. Again, fold your work so you can access that first post of the second grouping. I'm going to wrap my hook to do a double, and around that post, we're going to do 5 double crochets. Yarn's not really working with me right now. Five. So instead of working on the outer grouping, we're actually working on the next grouping in. And then we're going to chain 1 turn like usual, and do our next 5 around the very next post, which is right next to it. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with math teachers. I actually enjoyed math when I was in school. Y is standing up, X has slipped, and those legs are spread. Y is standing up, X has slipped, and those legs are spreading horizontally. Okay, yeah, that's one way to look at it. So I've done my scale. Again, not on the first group of double crochets from the foundation, but the second one over. And then when you get to the end, you're going to chain 1. And then the same thing repeats. You skip the next grouping, which is these 2 double crochets, and you go to the next one, and you complete your scale. My yarn is tied there because this is, again, some scrap yarn. So kind of ignore that little knot that's in there. 2, 1, 5, chain 1, rotate it back, and then on the very next post that's right next to it, do your 5 more. Five, chain 1, rotate it back, skip the next grouping, go to the following grouping, and do the exact same thing to the end of the row. Five, chain 1, turn it to do the other half of the scale. Five, chain 1, rotate it. And when you get to the end, there's a slightly different thing that you do at the very end. You'll still finish your scale like normal, but to join it to your foundation, there's a one little stitch that we have to do. And yes, this does eat yarn, because again, you're building not only on the y-axis and the x-axis, but the z-axis as well. See, I use the terms. Skip the next group, go to the next group. Five, chain 1, turn. Five. Okay. You get to the end of the row, and you are going to have one less scale on this row than you do on the first one, because everything's offset by 1. And when you get to the end of the row, if you make your last scale of that row, you're going to find your last set of double crochets. So your turning chain and your double crochet from your foundation. And all you're going to do is you're going to go into it and do a slip stitch. That's it. That is the basic repeat. To do our foundation chain, we're going to do the same thing. Again, I don't know if you guys are there yet, but when we did our foundation chain previously, the row when we just worked on, we did our 2 double crochets into the center of a scale, and then we did the ones between the scales. Now on this one, we're going to do our foundation chain here, which is between the scales. Imagine there's one to the right of it. And then we're going to do your 2 chains, your 2 doubles in the middle of the scale, and then so on. And that's all there is to this pattern. Your scales are going to look a little rough at first once you make it, but if you block it, obviously that will help. And then you can also kind of fluff it up with your fingers, depending on your yarn. I'm using cotton here, so they do kind of have some body to it since it's cotton. But you can always flatten them out, fluff them, and that's when you're done the entire piece. Anybody want me to keep going for an additional row? I love doing this stitch. I just figured out how to do it at the beginning of this week, and I was like, this is easy. Keep going. We want more crocodile. Okay. So, if we've reached to the end of our scales, now we're going to do foundation. We're going to chain 3, that counts as a double. And in this space between these 2 doubles here, right below, these here, you'll do another double. And again, those count as our 2 doubles for the foundation. Chain 2, and then in between the middle of the scale here, do 2 doubles. Chain 2. And now we're going to open up the scales and look between. Find those 2 double crochets. And in between each of them, we're going to put 2 doubles. Chain 2. In the middle of the scale, 2 doubles. Chain 2. Open the scales and find the 2 doubles there, in between the 2 doubles. And when you think about it, here when we get to our scale and we're doing a stitch in between the 2 doubles, when we made the scale, we were wrapping our stitches around 2 double crochets. So inside the scale here, there are 2 double crochets. You just can't see them because the scale has covered them up. Two, open the scales, find the 2 doubles, put 2 doubles in between those 2, chain 2, in the middle of the scale, put 2 doubles, chain 2, open the scales, find the doubles, in between those 2, put 2 doubles. Every time I do that and I open the scales to find it, I think of a little, it's not really, I guess it's a nursery rhyme. Did you ever learn this when you were a kid? Here's the church, here's the steeple, open the doors, there's all the people. That's what it always reminds me. Open the door, open the scales, and there they are. Your host has lost it. So now we're going to do our 2 doubles in the middle of our scale. Now on this row, since we offsetted, we started with an offset, point of view of a tornado. Since we started with an offset of the scales here, what we need to do is we need to chain 2 and move the scale to the side because we have 2 doubles right there. And we need to do 2 doubles in between those 2. Because if you flip it on the back, let's flip it on the back for a second. Here are 2 double crochets, a set of 2, and there are a set of 2 here, but there's also a set of 2 on this because that is where the scale is being wrapped around. So all of your double crochets, your groupings of double crochets, they're all lined up. Might be able to see it better here on the, yeah, you can see it better here on the white. So this is the back side, and you've got double crochets, groupings of double crochets, all lined up in a grid. It's just some of them have the scales wrapped around them, and then the next row doesn't. Okay. To get to the end of the foundation you work normally. The scales is when you do your pivoting. Now we're going to put a scale right here where my thumb is. So it's going to be the same as the first row of scales because everything has to be offset by 1 if they overlap. So if you're here at the edge and you're doing a row that starts at the edge, like what we're doing now, you'll chain 3. That counts as a double crochet. And around that very first double crochet post that's right here, you'll do 4 more. So we'll have a total of 5 doubles. 3, 4, 5. Chain 1. And then we're going to pivot, fold our work so we can access the stitch that we need, which is the one that's in that same grouping. And around it, we're going to do 5 more. Do 5 and then chain 1, turn it around, skip the next group of double crochets, these 2 here, and go to the next one. Fold it so you can get to the stitch, and then 5 around that post. Would help if I did a double crochet and not a half double. Only go through 2 loops, not 3. Chain 1, turn it around to do the other half of the scale. This stitch has been really popular in the last couple years. I've seen it done with, like I said, a variegated yarn, and I've seen fingerless gloves. I've seen, I don't know what you would call them. They're like mermaid tails. They're blankets. They're like pouches shaped like a mermaid tail that you could put your feet in. Kind of like a sleeping bag, but not that as long. You can make purses out of with this. There is, if you on YouTube on what's his name, Fiber Spider, on Craig's channel, he does a crocodile stitch shawl. It would be a very warm shawl, even if you use a lightweight yarn. It's because you got double thickness. So it would definitely not be a summertime shawl. Summertime for us Northern Hemisphere people. Because I know I do have some viewers that are in Australia. I don't know if they're in here currently, but I know I do have some viewers there. A very decorative, texturized stitch, which I've fallen in love with. If I can learn how to do a double crochet. Flat earthers think Australia's fake. I can't make this stuff. Okay, I'm not gonna go into that topic. I'm gonna work my last tail here at the end of my row. One, turn around. And 5. So I've made 6 rows because we did our foundation and our scales. 6 rows, but it looks like 3 rows. What do we all think about the crocodile stitch? Isn't it cool? From doing all the double crochets and the turning. And it's not a difficult stitch to do. It looks more difficult and intimidating. Because the first one I saw this a few years ago, I was like, I don't know about that. Pretty simple. Just thinking in a different way instead of flipping, you're rotating. Also with a thinner yarn. Yep, it could work good with a thinner yarn. Okay. So Grammy, you said you were doing this in a variegated. How has it turned out so far in a variegated? I think I'm going to use it on the Shrek yarn. You could do that. And I know you got how many? What you got? Like 5? I think you said 5. I think you got like 5 hanks of it. It works up quick. I mean, it doesn't. I mean, not work. It's going to eat up a lot of yarn, so you're not going to get a lot of area of it. So just keep that in mind. Love the stitch, but hate Lion Brand Impeccable yarn. It doesn't split, but it grabs the hook and doesn't move smoothly. Variegated looks good. Well, I've never used Lion Brand Impeccable yarn, So I'm not certain. Okay, let's see. Clay Miko. Very nice, Clay Miko. She sent me a picture. That is her crocodile stitch. Very good. That's a perfect. I can have that skein. Okay. Put Crocodile to the side. If Crojo is still here, because I haven't heard from her, I'm ready for the meme if you're ready for the meme. And again, we're not going to end the stream for a while. I still got about an hour left. I'm going to be working on granny squares for this charity project, this ongoing project. Before we end the stream, if anybody has issues or needs help with trying to figure out how to do the Discord video voice chat, let me know here in the chat or in the Discord. But that's after the stream tonight. I'm gonna find. I don't want to use white. I'm gonna try to find. I got a container to my left full of smaller balls of yarn that I'm just gonna try to grab to find to make granny squares out of. And I'm not liking these colors so far. They're all whites or creams, and I don't want to do anything dark. That's what we can do. Because again, tomorrow night on the Discord, we're not streaming tomorrow night here on Twitch, but on Discord, we will be having our second video viewing party. And tomorrow night's topics of the videos will be skirting and scouring fleeces. Because last night we saw the shearing of the sheep and alpaca. The skirting, and just as a heads up, the skirting and scouring is mainly for sheep. You won't really have to scour the alpaca. Mainly, the reason that and they'll tell you in the videos, for scouring it, it's to remove the lanolin. That's like the main, and some of the dirt, but it's mostly the lanolin. Okay. I don't know if if Crojo is still here. But we can always get to the meme when she's ready. So I'm going to work on some granny squares. And I got to find... Where did I put... What do I want to use? I got to find a pattern. I don't want a basic granny. I think I might do that one. I gotta resize. What measurements? Approximately 5 inches square. You don't have to be exactly 5, but close to it. I would say if it's 4 3/4 or 5 1/4, somewhere around there. Try to get as close to it as possible. I am going to be doing one of the in this yarn here, it's a variegated, it's blue and white. I'm going to be doing the birds of a feather, but 5-inch version of it. If I can get close to 5 inches, let me just see if I can This yarn here I'm going to be using tonight is a little bit thinner. Might be able to do it. If not, we'll add a couple extra rows. I remember how I did this. I got to pull up my patterns from Granny Week. Because I don't remember every stitch that I've ever done. Let's find this. Gotta remember how to start it. I gotta make my loop here in the center a little bit bigger because I couldn't see the loop. I'm gonna do one extra. I'm gonna do 5 instead of 4. Just so I can see what I'm doing. Okay. I'm gonna do 8 puff stitches. That What is everybody else working on? Yarn is being pain. The blanket. What type of blanket are you working on? You might have said that and mentioned it to me before. One more. Baby rainbow chevron blanket. Nice. I don't think you might have sent me a picture of that or sent it in the Discord. I don't remember. I can back to the pretty blanket where the yarn knows how to behave itself. Norfair's working on corner to corner. Go Norfairy. 206 of 690 squares done. Oh, yeah, I remember you mentioning the entrelac. I remember. And didn't you say you're doing knitted entrelac? I think that's what you had said. Okay, gotta remember how to refer to my notes. Okay. We shared a picture of this. Most curious about it. It sounds awesome. Yeah, I don't know if she fell asleep. One. I hope the crocodile didn't get her like it got Captain Hook. I'm full of bad jokes tonight. Wait a minute. Gotta check something real quick. Oh, just one thing. Yeah, this is working. Ooh. Again, um, just as a heads up, there will be no stream on May 6th. So it's not this Saturday, but the following Saturday. There will be no stream that night. Too many Discord groups. It's posted now. But the marathon stream will happen on Sunday, May 7th. Okay, let's look at this Antral. Oh yeah, I remember you posting that. Yeah, because I remember the colors, the purples and the greens. Very pretty, and a cute cat. And the marathon stream will be on like I said, Sunday the 7th, starting at 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. I've lost count how many times I've wrapped that. 2, 4. Starting at, like I said, 10 a.m., going till whenever. And for those of you who are new, if there's anybody new, 1, 2, 3, 4. I am making a blanket to donate to Project Linus. And it's an organization that accepts donations of brand new, handmade, clean blankets, either crocheted, knitted, quilted. I think there's a couple other types that they use. Wait a minute, did I mess up on here? Okay. And the blankets go to children in need, either severely ill or traumatized or otherwise in need. So it's a good program. It's a good charity. Don't remember. That's Stripes. Oh, well, don't a lot of cats think that everything is for them? Don't remember seeing that, but I may have missed it. It's gorgeous. Couldn't even dream of making something like that. Yeah. When it comes to knitting, I'm not the one. I like the color fade on the square. Oh, of this? I don't know. It's some scrap yarn acrylic that I've had for a while now. I don't know the name of it. It goes from blue to white. It's a little bit on the fuzzy side. It's very soft. It's very, very soft. I'm at about 4 inches. Looks, yeah, it does look like cloud pajamas. Oh, and I know. Oh, believe me, I know. I just hope that this that this round is not going to make it too large. If it does, then I'll rip out this row and then do a shorter stitch around the edge. And I'll show you if anybody is doing either this project or uh, when I'm doing the puffs, I can't talk because I lose count how many times I do my yarn overs. If anybody's trying to make something exact or close to a certain size, and if they're going around and around, I recommend 2, 3, and 4. Like when I started here, I'm going to go around to the other side and then measure. And if not, then I'll rip that part out. So I'm not doing a full round. And then I'll be able to do a shorter stitch on this final round. I just don't want it to be 5.5 inches. It's going to be a little too big. It's not going to work well with everything else. That's what we're going to measure. We're going to measure that right there. We're right at 5 inches. Perfect. I was afraid it was going to be too big. To decide on the stitch for this marathon. Yes, it's a pattern I can share on the marathon. I will share what the pattern is. I can't show how to do the pattern because again, I don't have permission from it. But this is the yarn and this is the pattern. It is a row of, if I can remember correctly, I'm gonna do a little bit bigger of a swatch. It is, I think it's half double crochets, and it's a special stitch that you do to make like this chain. And I don't know if you can see, the yarn's kind of shiny. Makes like this chain thing on the raised side. It's not reversible. It's got a front and a back, and then it's got these bobbles, and then that's like the repeat. So I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's like singles, a row singles, half doubles, and then you do the special thing to do on the next row to the half doubles, and then it's the bobble stitches, and then it's then it repeats over and over. I think it's those 4 rows. So it's gonna have a little bit of a texture, not super textured, but I'll make a bigger swatch. I got to do that sometime this week. It's called the Malia pattern, I think it's called. The pattern calls for at the top, and well, they end up changing colors throughout the blanket. I'm not changing colors. And it calls at the very bottom of the blanket and the top of the blanket a ribbing. I'm not doing the ribbing on it. I gotta also determine how wide I'm gonna do it. I know our chapter of Project Linus has to be at least 30 by 30. I'll have to determine if I'm gonna do it bigger than that. I'm not really certain. I gotta kind of estimate how much yarn I have because I don't want it to be too wide and then not tall enough. And like I said before, I'm not expecting everybody to tune in during the entire marathon because that's a lot to ask. But we'll see how far I get. 2, and 4. How much of that cloud PJ yarn do you have? This is all I have, and you know what? Make it as big as you can. Infants outgrow. Yeah, they do outgrow the 30 by 30. I'm gonna say something that's controversial. Claymika, you said you want to make some PJ shorts with it. I'm saying something controversial, and I'm kind of joking, but I'm kind of serious about it. I forbid anybody in the sound of my voice from making crocheted pants or shorts. That's just my personal view on it. They don't wear well, and no, I don't like it. Okay. That actually looks really pretty. Yeah, exactly 5 inches. And I think I have enough. I think I have enough to do one more. I mean, to each their own, but I don't think crocheted and knitted items wear well on the lower half of the body. Socks, yes. Socks, yes. But things that are meant to be worn at the waist or right below the waist, there's a lot of movement with your legs and everything and sitting on it and everything. And most handmade knitted or crocheted things are not going to be really durable and comfortable for it. That's just my opinion. And if I end up losing followers and detractors from that, don't take me too seriously. Again, it's my opinion. This booty doesn't need to be kept at that toasty either. Puff stitches sometimes can be a crochet jock. No, 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 no. No. Not crocheting. 2, 3, 4. I'm not crocheting underwear of any sort for anybody. No. Yeah. I don't care if it's cotton and breathable. No. Can you show us how to do that, Granny? I did show you how to do this, Granny. Did you not pay attention on Granny Week? You want me to show you again? Okay, I can't really. It's easier to show you with a different yarn because this yarn gets washed out. So we will get our cotton. We didn't pay attention now, did we? Okay, I'll make it in some yellow. This is not going to be going into any charity blanket because this is cotton. This is called the Birds of a Feather. We'll recap that from the other week. So birds of a feather, Granny. We're going to start with your slip stitch. You could do a magic circle if you want. I'm not doing a magic circle. And I'm going to chain 4. Like you do most grannies. Let me zoom in a little bit. Chain 4, and then slip stitch to join to form your ring. Actually, I'm not going to chain 4. I'm going to chain 5. I need a little extra room in the ring because this first ring, you're going to put a lot of stitches in it. So I've chained 5, chain 1 after, well, chain 5, slip stitch to form the ring, chain 1, and take a sip of your iced tea. That's important. And then into that center ring, you're going to do 8 puff stitches. I'm going to show you again how to do a puff stitch. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch over my tail. So I don't have to worry about, even if this is a sample, I'll still do it. It's good practice for me. I usually don't do that. I need to get in practice of it. So we've formed our ring. We've chained 1. And now we're going to do our puff stitches. A puff stitch is we're going to wrap our hook around the yarn. We're going to go into our center ring. Is hot tea okay? Hot tea's fine. Yeah, it has a lot of puff stitches. They're going to form this center here. So we formed our ring, chained 1. We're going to wrap our yarn because there are technically a series of half double crochets that are not finished, kind of, if you look at it that way. So we're going to wrap our yarn, go in to our ring, pull up a loop. That's 1. Do it again. Wrap our yarn, go in, pull up a loop. That's 2. Wrap our yarn, go in, pull up a loop. That's 3. Wrap our yarn, go in, pull up a loop, and that's 4.
Thanks for the follow.
Thank you for the follow, Jersey girl. So you're going to end up having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all of them. I didn't leave enough room. Sorry. So I got to do that all over again. Puff stitches can be a little challenging at times. So again, we're going to wrap, go in, pull up a loop, and sometimes if you make your loop a little bit bigger, that's 1, and you're going to do it 3 more times. Wrap, go in, pull up a loop, that's 2. Wrap, go in, pull up a loop, that's 3. Wrap, go in, pull up a loop, that's 4. Yarn over and go through everything on your hook. Chain 1 to secure it. I might have needed to make my chain my center ring a little bit bigger, because I forgot that this yarn's a little bit on the thicker side, even though it's a size 4 cotton. It's cotton. So now we're going to do that 7 more times. Wrap our hook, go in, bring up a loop, that's 1. Wrap, go in, bring up a loop, that's 2. Wrap, go in, bring up a loop, that's 3. Wrap, go in, bring up that loop, that's 4. Yarn over through everything on the hook. Chain 1 to secure it. If you're having trouble with this, you can always do a bigger ring or the magic circle. So that's 2. We're going to do a total of 8 in there. Again, wrap, go in, bring up a loop. That's once. Wrap, go in, bring up the loop. That's twice. Wrap, go in, bring it up. That's 3 times. Wrap, go in, bring it up 4 times. Now we're going to wrap our hook and go through everything on our hook. Chain 1 to lock it in place. all of it. And the whole time I was stitching over my tail, so I didn't have to worry about weaving it in as much at the end. So that was 4. Now we got to do 4 more. That's 6. And same thing whenever you do any grannies or any circles that you're working into a ring, you can always move them around, give you some room. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We need to do 2 more. 1, 2, 3, 4. The 7th one, now we do 1 more. After you do your 8 puffs, and you chain, again, at the end of each puff, you chain to secure it. Then to join, we're just going to slip stitch to the top of our first puff. To join. Now, to do our next round, the next round you're not going to have as many puffs. Well, you're always going to have 8 puffs per round. They're just going to be spread out more. So what we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch into the space between our next 2 puffs. So slip stitch, slip stitch, and in that space for round 2, in that space you're going to do 2 puffs in that one space. So again, wrap, go in, bring up a loop, wrap, go in, bring up a loop, wrap, go in, bring up the loop, and then wrap, go in, bring up a loop 4 times, yarn over through everything, chain 1, and in that exact same space, do another puff. Chain 1 to secure the puff. So now, we're going to go to the next space between the next 2 puffs. And in that space, we're going to do 2 double crochets, 2 chains, and 2 double crochets. We're going to make a corner here. So in that space, do 2 doubles, 2 chains, and 2 doubles, all in that same space. And that's the repeat for this round. So in the next space, and again, in between our double crochets, our corner groupings, and our puffs, we're not chaining anything. We're going right into it. Into the next space between those 2 puffs, you're going to put 2 puffs in that space. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Bring it through, chain 1. And then put another one right next to it. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Bring it through, chain 1. And then in the next space, we're going to do a corner grouping, 2 doubles, 2 chains, 2 doubles, 2 double, 2 chains, and then 2 doubles in that same corner. Now that same space, which will make the corner. And we've come to the next space in between the puffs from our first round. That will get 2 puffs. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over through everything. Chain 1 to secure it. And then do another puff. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there we go. And you do that all the way around. Working on a corner right now. And now I'm going to put 2 puffs in between these puffs. Okay, 1 to secure, another puff, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Chain 1 to secure, and in our last corner we do our 2 doubles, 2 chains, and then 2 doubles, and then we're going to slip stitch to the top of our first puff of that round to join, and that is round 2. So on round 2, you're only going to have puffs, and all the other rounds, you're only going to have 2 puffs just on the sides. Let me get my original sample here. You got your puffs here in the center, and then right up the middle of each of them, that's where your puff stitches are going to go. In your corners now, and I'll show you how to do the corners on round 3. So we've joined, we're in between 2 puffs, so we're going to slip stitch to get there. And in that space between those 2 puffs, we're going to put 2 puffs. Okay. Now in the corners here. So our previous row in the corner, we had 2 double crochets, 2 chains, and 2 double crochets. So in each of the first 2 double crochets, each of them are going to get 1 double crochet. So it's just double crochet on top of a double crochet, and do it again, real basic. In the corner space, we'll do 2 doubles, 2 chains, and 2 doubles. The next 2 double crochets are each going to get 1 double. So the first one gets a double, and the second one gets a double. And now we can come to our puffs. In between the puffs, we'll do 2 puffs. Later in May, when we do our basic stitches near the end of the month, I think I got to double check my schedule here for that month. There will be a stream where I show in depth how to do the puff stitches and the bobble stitches. They're close, they're similar, but they're different. So we'll go over these special stitches like the puffs and the bobbles and the popcorns and the picots and all of that good stuff. So again, we're at the corner. Each of the double crochets in the corner there will get a double crochet. The space gets 2 doubles. Oh, 2 doubles, 2 chains, and then 2 doubles all in that same space. Each of the next 2 doubles will get 1 double crochet. And then we come to puffs. In between the puffs, get puffs. Do the same thing with our corners. Each double gets a double. Corner, actual space, gets 2 doubles, 2 chains, and 2 doubles. And then the next 2 double crochets each get a double. It's kind of like a solid granny square, which that's a solid granny square. So instead of doing your clusters, your 3 clusters like you normally do, the corners are pretty much the same, kind of like this. You do 2 doubles, 2 chains, and 2 doubles in the actual corner, but the rest of it is double crochets on top of a double crochet. They're like regular rows. It's a solid. So the corners are exactly like a solid. The only difference is the middle stitches of each side are puffs. And then when you get to the end, again, you slip stitch to join, and then you can make it as big as you want. That is, now this is cotton yarn, so the stitches are gonna look a little different because of the way the yarn works up, but this is the same thing. You end up getting the holes in the corner like you normally would with a granny square or a another stitch. That was the wrong one. I shouldn't have shown that. It's like this. You still get the holes in your in the corners like a solid granny. But then, like I said, along the middle axis, Y and X, X and Y axis, like from earlier, more geometry. The X and Y axes are puff stitches. It definitely, you can feel it. You could definitely feel the dimension that's in there. There's puffs. Even on this, it's a little bit thinner yarn. And makes a cool look to it. Does that explain it a little bit easier for you, Claim Eco, or anyone else? And it does look really good in this blue and white yarn. Put my tape measure away. Okay, I think we're going to end up ending the stream here. And Crochet never showed up with the meme, so I guess we have no meme tonight. Anybody who's still here on stream that is also a member of the Discord, by the way, I do have a Discord. Should have mentioned that. I also have a YouTube channel. All of my streams, as soon as I'm done streaming, get posted to the YouTube channel so you can watch previous streams from months past. We have a Discord, like I mentioned. Get a growing group over there. We're showing off our projects, asking questions. We have our YouTube viewing parties where last night we watched a YouTube video on shearing of sheep and alpaca, not sheeps. Tomorrow we're doing one on skirting and scouring. If anybody needs some help with trying to navigate how the video voice channel in the Discord works, let me know either here or in the Discord. And as soon as I'm done streaming, I can walk you through it over there. If you like last night, if you join the video voice channel to watch along with these videos, and again, I'm showing them on there because I can't show the videos here on Twitch because I am not the content creator of those videos. If you join the video voice chat channel over there on Discord, you do not have to be on camera and you do not have to be on voice. There's a text chat that goes along with that channel that's separate that we can all interact and communicate with. So if you have that apprehension about being on camera, don't have to worry about it. You don't have to say it. You don't have to use your voice. Just like here, I'll be on camera, and while we're watching the videos, I mute my my audio. So if anybody at any time needs help with that, just send me a little message over on the Discord. So I think we're going to leave that there. Thank you, everybody, for popping in tonight and learning the crocodile stitch. Again, I will be on tomorrow night on Discord at 8 p.m. Eastern for our videos that we're going to watch on skirting and scouring fleeces. And then I will be back on here Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern for edging stitches. I picked 4 more. I think the other couple months ago we did 4 stitches to edge or borders. I picked 4 more stitches to do. So we'll do that on Saturday here. So everybody have a good evening. I will chat with you, if not tomorrow in the Discord, then here on Twitch. Everybody be safe and happy crafting.